divine energy poured into me one day from that very raw space, from that very honest place. And it said, pull it all together. This is Spiritually Fly, where we explore the soft, sacred, and sometimes messy layers of becoming. I'm Faith Hunter, author, global wellness expert, and your guide on this journey to living with ease, authenticity, and alignment. Now, each week, we will drop into stories, practices, and soulful conversations that will help you heal, rise, and manifest the life you were born to live. Hey there, darlings. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Fly. First, I want to welcome you to what is called a foundation episode. Yes, foundation episode of the Spiritually Fly podcast. What I'm going to be doing as we move forward and as I travel the world, I will be creating content that will look a little bit different than what I've done in the past, meaning the structure. So, if you are a member of the Spiritually Fly membership, or you've seen some of my monthly meetups that I've been sharing on live stream, I'm not going to be doing those anymore. I am combining that with my Spiritually Fly podcast. First, let's cover this. Foundation episodes are where I will take you directly into the heart of the work that I do, the Spiritually Fly Sutras. And if you're probably wondering what Spiritually Fly Sutras are, I'm going to explain that a lot more. But if you have my book, you know exactly what Spiritually Fly Sutras are. These sutras are the core life principles that have really shaped every single thing that I do, whether I am teaching in person, if I'm doing a virtual experience, if I'm writing my book or writing on my Substack, if I am guiding you inside of the Spiritually Fly membership, which also has an app, or if I'm leading workshops and retreats and festivals and things that I do around the world. It's all influenced by the Spiritually Fly Sutras. Ultimately, those sutras, they are the root, the base, and ultimately the foundation of all that I do. So, today's foundation episode is a special one. And it's special in the sense that I will be focusing on all of the 7 sutras, not just one. I'm going to talk about all of them. This is also the perfect moment to return to the core of the work I do as I embark on my world travels. I am going to be leaning in more to these sutras in a way to support me in staying steady and grounded. Part of that is because the practices that are part of, or the practices that are uniquely intertwined with the Spiritually Fly Sutras, have really guided hundreds of thousands of people around the world through their own healing, through alignment, and also through manifestation. I'll talk a lot more as we go through this episode around why these sutras are so important to me and how I've threaded them and how I've shared them with so many people around the world. Before we begin, I want you also to know that there are different styles of episodes here on the podcast. So here is how it's going to look. Some of these episodes will be foundation episodes where I will dive into the principles and practices that elevate your life from the inside out as it relates to, of course, the Spiritually Fly Sutras. Other episodes will be more intimate solo reflections. Sometimes I may come on and read a passage or something that I've written on my Substack that is like sitting in my heart. I may also talk about a relevant topic. I may interview someone, right? But ultimately, the Spiritually Fly podcast will be 100% devoted to creating a space that supports you in your own journey, regardless of where you are. And I want you to think of this space, meaning the Spiritually Fly. Mm, oh my God, the Spiritually Fly casa, Spiritually Fly home, the Spiritually Fly base. The background may not look the same as we move forward together, but I want you to see it as something that is living, that is breathing, that is evolving as we all walk together. Okay. Let's dive into what are spiritually fly sutras. First, let's look at the word sutra. So, this may be a new word for you, and you're probably like, how do I even spell that? It's spelled Sutra, sutra. Sutra. I just like saying that actually. Sutra. Spiritually fly sutras. Okay. And the word sutra simply means thread. Now, in ancient traditions, sutras are guiding principles. Ultimately, the threads you weave through life, your life. And how I'm approaching this is that the sutras are the foundational threads, like the fundamental components that will help bring you back into alignment, support you in gaining clarity when you're feeling a little shaken, and also assist you in rooting, committing to, and maybe even sometimes there may be moments where you're like, I'm not even sure, tapping into your purpose. The Spiritually Fly Sutras, there are actually seven. So these seven threads that hold together everything, meaning they hold together everything that I do. Not just that I do, they hold together the way that I live. Because, yeah, I'm pausing on that for a moment because I'm going to tell you a little more about that. But everything I share, I live, I do, I teach, from nervous system regulation to energetic healing with my hands to manifestation to spiritual growth to radical self love. They are not, meaning the sutras are not just steps or these little things you check off and go, okay, I've accomplished that, on to the next. No, 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 no. They are living principles that I return to, that people I've worked with privately or in group sessions come back and say, oh my God, I always go back to that principle. I always go back to that practice that supported me in doing X, Y, and Z. And they'll go, oh yeah, Faith, that was in Sutra 2, or that was in Sutra 5, right? Chapter 2, chapter 5. If you have the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, the sutras, I have to tell people this because many people ask me often, oh, how did you think of that name? And da, 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 da. There's a whole story around Spiritually Fly, but I want to really share that Spiritually Fly, as well as sutras, were not born out of some marketing strategy. I just didn't wake up and go, okay, it's going to be Spiritually Fly, and I'm going to call them these are my sutras, and let me write them down. And all right, these are the principles of my business. No, 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 no. Nothing like that. This is all fully 100% embodied expression, divine creativity from a place of healing, which is really important, from a place of healing. So the Spiritually Fly Sutras, so first, the name Spiritually Fly had already been around for a couple of years. The sutras came later. So Spiritually Fly, I think, started somewhere 2006, 2007, somewhere up in there. Spiritually Fly Sutras were born in 2011, so 2011. And they happened right in the middle of one of the most challenging and difficult moments in my life. I was in a relationship, and this is all in my book. So if you want all the details, you have to go read the book. But I was in a relationship, and it was layered with a lot of control, and I had to get out. So I did. I left. It wasn't healthy, it was toxic, and I had to get out. But the interesting part is that literally in that time, I was shaken. And like I'd already pulled out of the situation. And I remember being in my home, my new home. And the first night that I was there, I didn't have a bed. I had like an air mattress. And mind you, I had left like this beautiful space, and I still have my yoga studio, by the way. Actually, my second yoga studio had only been open up a year. So it was less than a few blocks from my new home and my old home. I didn't move that far, but I moved. And I remember being in my building, and I was looking out the window on the eighth floor, and around me was a bench. An air mattress was sitting in my one bedroom, and my 2 dogs, and a whole lot of boxes. And I'm not gonna lie, I still would wake up, go to my yoga studio, I would teach, and I would go home. I would travel the world, right? This kind of behavior went on for at least a good 2 months because I was in mourning, so and I still had contracts that I had to fulfill, so I was traveling, and I'd wake up, get on the plane, do what I had to do. Then at some point, some furniture arrived, you know, and in those moments for about a 2-month period, I would just curl up at night or curl up in my hotel room, and I would cry. I would cry so hard. Oh my God. What what did I do to to be in this situation, right? And I really remember asking God and wondering to myself, are you punishing me? I was like, why am I starting over? And it's really interesting because there have been moments like that throughout my life where there's a rewind. Like it's almost like the universe goes, click, Faith, time to start over. And each time I start over, I'm learning a new lesson. And actually, I want to pause before I continue. It's as I'm sharing this right now, a thought came into my mind, and I've been journaling about this a lot lately. Is that right now in this moment, as I transition, I'm leaving New Orleans and putting all my stuff in storage. I'm starting over. Like not completely from scratch, but damn, does it feel like it's from scratch. Yeah. I'm starting over because I have let go of so many parts of me. I've also let go of so many things that I used to do. And I've been shedding these things over the past 2.5 years that I've been here in New Orleans. I've been shedding yoga teacher training. I'm still a yoga teacher. Um, I'm still registered as a yoga teacher. I still provide training hours for people that are interested in learning more about yoga, meditation, and so forth. But I do not host any yoga teacher training programs anymore. That's fallen off. That actually fell off almost over a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. Yeah, year and a half ago. I completely stopped doing yoga teacher trainings. I only provide continuing education. And as I prepare to move now, I am letting go of clothes and furniture and just completely purging so many personal items, right? So, what I have learned is it is important to be in the challenging moments of starting over and using that as an opportunity to step fully into the next season and version of yourself. And that's where I was in 2011 as it relates to the birth of the Spiritually Fly Sutras. So there was one morning that I woke up and I was like, girl, it's time for you to get back to your practice. Like, really get back to your practice. So I woke up and I was like, all right, I need to start a new routine. I have to start a new routine. So I did. I started a new routine and I was like, it's time for me to commit to 40 days. That's the most important thing, committing to a 40-day routine. What is that going to look like for you, Faith? And I was like, I have to get in a movement. So I'm going to do my movement practice, being kind and providing as much grace as I possibly can to myself. So my movement practice looked different every day. It may be a little kundalini, it may be hatha yoga, maybe restorative yoga, maybe some somatic movement, but I move my body. It may be dancing, like whatever. And it may be a blend of all of those things, but I move my physical body. And I knew after that I needed to drop into meditation. So that's what I would drop into meditation. Now, energetically, I knew that I also needed to really move some intense, tight energy out of my body, out of my spirit, out of my soul, right? I needed to completely detoxify. So I definitely grounded through my feet a lot. So a lot of my practices were about rooting and grounding because I needed to feel stable and steady after going through such a traumatic relationship and exit. And then I also needed to tap into the depth of my core. I needed to build my confidence up, meaning I worked a lot on my third chakra because I lost my juju, right? I lost my magic in the middle of that relationship. And then the other thing that was so important, and that comes back to the grounding, is that I really needed to feel safe. I needed to feel safe. And that's where the somatic work really supported me, the deep breath work and connecting to my physical body and my heart, right? The somatic work really played a huge part in me feeling safe in my body. And then that element of safety moved out into my home. And then my home became my sanctuary, and which is interesting because from that moment, my home really, that sense of safety and security has transitioned and moved into every single home that I've had over the years since 2011. And actually, yeah, it really has. So, in the midst of all of that, what I would do is move with sweetness. I would tap into my breath. As I said, I would sit in stillness. And then the final thing that I would do after I would move, and it would take about an hour and a half or so, sometimes 2 hours, depending on how much time I had, then I would journal. Now, I started journaling years and years ago, like prior to this. I was in junior high school when I started journaling. So journaling has always been an essential part and a crucial part of my life in terms of getting out my emotions. And that's really where my love for writing started. So, of course, I've been journaling for years, and I continue to do that when everything happened in 2011. Now, the moment that spiritual cave that I was in, basically, that I placed myself in, was exhausting. It was painful. I would get angry. I would get sad. But at the same time, I would feel joy. I would feel peace. I would feel comfort. And I definitely felt an amazing awakening. Like all of that energy sometimes would even be in the exact same practice. Like it's magical how that would happen. And then slowly, as I moved into those 40 days, things started to shift. I found my confidence. My inner voice became much more stronger, much more powerful, and my heart started to soften. And I had a ping, right? Divine energy poured into me one day from that very raw space, from that very honest place. And it said, pull it all together. I'm like, pull it all together? What are you talking about? And mind you, I kept journals. I kept notes from practices that I taught and share with other people. Practices, of course, the way that I teach is that I do it myself for a minute, meaning like for days and months. I'm like, okay, let's play with this. What does this feel like? Okay, on this day, do the same practice or the same movement or the same mantra or the same, like I would just repeat, repeat, repeat. And it's almost like I was doing the experiments on myself and I would journal about it. And then I would write the experience down. It was all of an experiment. So what I did was that ping came and said, pull it all together. I started looking at all the different practices that I experienced, that I'd shared over the years, all the meditation practices, the rituals that I would do, that I had crafted and created for myself, that I had pulled from my ancestors, right? I pulled all of that together and just kind of like looked at it one day and I was like, oh my God. Even to the music, right? The sound current. So movement, sound, stillness, all of that came together. And then I started writing, what do I believe in? What is true for me? What can I live by? And it's almost felt like affirmations of sorts, but instead they were these beautiful threads, the sutras, the Spiritually Fly Sutras. And I typed them up and I put them on my refrigerator. I put them in my bathroom. And I said, I'm going to read these and see what they feel like on a daily. And then over a course of time, I started sharing these sutras with my students in my yoga studio. And I was like, whoa, these are pretty cool. Because I can take these and look back at the teachings I taught and blend them all together. And that's when that divine ping, that's really what it was about when it poured into me. Pull it all together. And that's what I did. So ultimately, the Spiritually Fly Sutras became my personal foundation, became my lifeline to help me stay steady in that moment. And the work that I did during that moment in my cave became my way back to myself. And over the years, the Spiritually Fly Sutras, the Spiritually Fly method, and things that I teach have become the heart again of all the work that I do. Not just guiding me on my life, but have really supported people all over the world, all over the world, with helping them get back into personal alignment, helping them do some deep healing. And the thing that I love the most, and I didn't start talking about it until a couple of months ago because I knew what was possible. I knew what was there. but I was having a conversation. Um, this was probably, I don't know, yeah, a couple of months ago, having a conversation with a fellow teacher, healing guide, who's also been through my trainings, who has my book, who teaches. She actually takes this book, and actually a couple of teachers out there use this book in their own teaching. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I read from that book, Faith. Come on now." And she's like, "When I do that work that's in that book, when I do those practices, things happen. Magic happens. Manifestation pours through me. My manifestations, my deepest dreams and goals start to happen. When I am not doing the work, when I'm stuck, nothing happens." I was like, huh, that makes perfect sense. Aha, right? Because when I'm doing the work, when I'm following those sutras, when I'm embodying and living those sutras, the magic happens. Just have to allow myself to tap in. So today, we are again, finally, we're making it to the point of this, the 7 pillars of this foundation, the Spiritually Fly Foundation. Let's start with the first one. Sutra 1, lead with love. Ultimately, when you choose to begin within, everything changes. Lead with love is all about the heart. You have to lead with a heart rooted in radical self love first. And in that, you have to allow compassion to guide you with every connection to yourself and connection to others. The energy of this particular sutra is all about steadying the nervous system in a very graceful, meaning you're giving yourself all the amount of grace as you can. It's about softening your defenses, coming back to the heart of yourself, loving yourself unconditionally, all the many sides, tapping into the shadows. It's about forgiveness. And the beautiful part is that when you lead with love for self, then you have the capacity to open that space, meaning your heart, to the relationships with others. Fear starts to fall off too. And that's where some of that openness starts to happen with opportunities. The doors start to open a little bit. And it's almost like reconnecting with yourself in a new way. As I talk about these sutras, I'm going to try also to provide some examples, and I'm also going to give you a reflection prompt to help you connect to these sutras a little bit deeper. So here's an example. I've seen clients who, the moment that they stop trying to fix themselves, but instead start to honor themselves, toxic connections that they have in other relationships start to dissolve. And the beauty is the nourishing relationships start to show up. And I use the word fix very specifically because that's what we typically try to do. We clench, we hold, we like pull in, and we're like trying to fix ourselves. And it's really not about that. It's just we need to just honor and love ourselves. And in that place of honoring and loving ourselves, we soften. And then from there, we're like, oh, wow, Now I can deepen my relationship with my sister. I can forgive. I can forgive my ex, my mother, my father, like whomever, because you're doing it to provide compassion to yourself. And that is what Lead with Love is all about. Here's a reflection prompt. What would it look like for you to lead with love in one relationship or one decision or one situation this week? Just one. And I want you to give that a try. All right. Let's move on to number 2. Sutra 2 is stand in your truth. Stand in your truth. There is so much power in showing up as your unfiltered, true, authentic self. And standing in your truth means setting boundaries to protect your peace, number 1. And it is all about aligning your life with what you deeply value. When your body feels safe, your voice is naturally more powerful, so much stronger, and you naturally attract the possibilities that match your integrity. And it's so important when you're standing in your truth to listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. And the practices that I share as it relates to that sutra, that's what they're all about. Harnessing your strength, your inner power, listening to your intuition, and speaking, living from a place of integrity and authenticity. Here's a little example. I had a season in my life where saying no to what drained me felt terrifying. Terrifying. There was a moment where I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, should I say no? Oh my God, I'm gonna," like it was like ultimate doubt all the time. And I realized that that was unhealthy, right? Because no one told me that I could say no. I didn't even have examples of other women in my life that were comfortable saying no. So I kind of had to learn that as an adult woman, especially as a Black woman, right? We're groomed. That's all the examples that we see are women saying yes, taking care of everybody, handling all the situations and the moments. No, I don't do that anymore. I said no. And when I finally stepped into that new season of saying no, it was so powerful because ultimately that no that I would say to someone else always resulted in a massive, massive yes to myself. So here's your prompt for today. Where are you ready to stop compromising and start standing fully in your truth? Where are you ready to stop compromising and start standing fully in your truth? All right. Here we go. Sutra 3, face your demons with compassion and bravery. Now, this is where we really dive into the shadow work, all right? Knowing that we can't spiritually bypass things. Can't I know a lot of people like to show up to yoga, do that vinyasa practice, and it's feeling good and like juicy in your body and like opening your hips and singing the songs and like, yeah, I feel good. But you haven't done the work. You're just taking a class. So I want you to know that facing your demons, dancing with your demons, it's not going to destroy you. Tapping into that shadow work is simply a gateway to your own personal freedom. It's about meeting your fear your grief, your doubt with compassionate connection. It assists you in rewiring the way that you see and show up for yourself. This is where you completely 100% dissolve the patterns that block you from joy, from your success, and for your ability to receive the gifts. Whew. Mm. I have witnessed not only in my life, but with so many others that were feeling stuck in old grief, create a massive shift by tapping into their shadows, facing them with compassion and bravery. And on the flip side, creating a whole new life, creating new projects, creating a new career, stepping into something totally different that they had no idea that they even had the capacity to do, simply because they gave themselves permission to face the pain rather than avoid it. Here's your prompt. What is one shadow, fear, or wound that you are willing to meet with compassion this month? What is one shadow, fear, or wound that you are willing to meet, to say hello, to dance with, to tango with, to cha cha with, to do some boots on the ground with compassion this month? Because you have to get in deep. You have to swirl around, feel it, allow yourself to really connect to that shadow. All right, let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is let down your walls and reveal your heart. This is all about vulnerability and knowing that vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is a bridge to everything you desire. When we release the barriers around our heart, the nervous system learns that it's okay. It's safe to be seen. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, connection expands, connection to self. We allow ourselves to be held, to receive support. And this space opens up a channel of intimacy as well as abundance starts to flow in. Do you see? Well, hold on. I just need to make a quick note. If you notice what I've been saying over these past few sutras, when you do these things, you are peeling back the layers so that other things can show up. I'm just saying. So here's the deal. I have seen people, and I've been one too, because it's not just other people. I've been in this place as well, where my walls were so high for years. Like I couldn't even climb out. Like that's how high they were. But suddenly when I start chipping away, right? Tap, 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 start chipping away. I'm able to like see what's on the other side. I'm like, oh my God, there's some sunlight there. Oh my goodness, there's some flowers there. Oh my gosh, there's connection there. There's healing there. There's possibility there. There's love there. There's freedom there. Tap, tap, tap some more. Is it okay for me to go out? Is it okay for me to ask for support? Is it okay for me to say no and say yes to me? And that's what happens. you finally allow yourself to be seen in this place of vulnerability, the wall starts to fall down. And that new life that you were looking at through that tiny little hole that you started to crack open, there's a whole new world out there. So here's your thought. Here's what I want you to reflect on. Where can you let down your walls just a little bit this week? Just a little bit. Maybe to let someone in, maybe to share something that's intimate, maybe to take a chance on yourself. Maybe letting down that wall just means that you are going to start that project that you've been holding out on. Whatever. Vulnerability comes in many shapes and forms. And most of the time, that wall, and I shouldn't even say most, almost all the time, that wall is simply fear of what's on the other side. Number 5, Sutra 5. Trust and have faith in yourself and others. Trust is the soil where life's next chapter grows. Trust is the soil where life's next chapter grows. Because when you get over that wall, right, you start rebuilding. When you take that chance, when you let go of all the stuff, you're like, okay, I'm being vulnerable with myself. I'm stepping out. Now it's time for me to rebuild. So that means I have to trust the process. I have to trust my intuition. I have to extend an act of faith outward. Trust enables you to get past your fear. And when you are moving with pure integrity and authenticity, you know exactly which direction you need to go because you are in alignment with yourself, meaning your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul. And then life meets you, right? The universe meets you. God meets you, right? Where however you want to label it, meets you with opportunities, with clarity and support. So you just have to trust and have faith. There are moments in my life where I didn't trust myself enough to even take small steps, like even baby steps. But one of the biggest steps that I took in my life, I was working in Washington, D.C. for a nonprofit. I I went on vacation to Jamaica for 2 weeks with my ex at the time. We had a great time. But in that moment, like we were just hanging out and, enjoying Jamaica. I was taking some yoga classes, of course, in yoga class. And I'm like meditating and ping, you need to leave your job. That was the ping. It's time to move on. So I made it back to Washington, D.C., left my job, put in my notice, my 2 weeks notice. And then my boss said, no, you can't do a 2 weeks notice. Remember, your contract says you have to do a month. So I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So I ended up doing a month's notice, but I made an agreement with him that I could work from New York. I don't know, because I was training somebody else. So it made it pretty easy. But I guess I had the first work from home. That was my first taste of working from home. But that was me trusting divine connection and alignment. From that moment of taking that leap from living in DC, working in a nonprofit that was a national nonprofit, I was getting paid very well. And because I was a director. That's why I had a month contract or a month's notice because I was a director for this organization. And relocating, getting rid of my stuff, carrying literally the bare minimum, couple of boxes of clothes. And yeah, moving to New York, that single moment brought me to where I am right now. Because when I moved there, I spent almost 3 months. I wasn't working. I was like, I'm just taking the summer. I'm going to chill, hanging out with my boo, and I'm going to take a whole lot of yoga classes. And I bounced around New York City, tasting all the different flavors of yoga, meditation, healing modalities. Like I swear every week I was somewhere else. But it opened my eyes to where I wanted to go, meaning where I wanted my life to go. And even then, I wasn't even sure. It was more of, oh, these practices are helping me move through some things. And then I made it to a point almost 2 years in after moving to New York of saying to myself, I really like this yoga studio. What's this yoga teacher training thing about? Oh, they do meditation. Oh, they do this. They do Ayurveda. They did like, and then I just dove deep into what I do now. But even then, I didn't even know. It was all trust. And then in that 2-year period, I'm going to make this story quick because we have 2 more sutras. Even then, I had a job, right? I was working again. Bada bing, bada boom. No more job. I got fired. And I was like, holy crap, what am I doing? I guess I'll teach yoga. And that's what I did. Like that is exactly what I did. Actually, the firing came before yoga teacher training. So I was thinking about yoga teacher training and I didn't do it that year. Then I was fired like 7 or 8 months later. And then I started yoga teacher training. So again, started living off my savings. I was living alone at that point in time. Did my yoga teacher training, came out of yoga teacher training. And I was like, well, I'll just teach and have some private clients here in New York and la, 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 la. And then years later, next thing you know, I moved back to DC, opened up 2 yoga studios. I'm on the cover of Yoga Journal. Like everything just kind of like, but it all happened in that single moment of trusting divine alignment and quitting and starting over. There you have it. Here's a prompt. What is one choice you can make this week that shows that you trust yourself? Boom. What is one choice that you can make this week that shows you trust yourself? All right. Number 6, Sutra 6, follow your passions with conviction and purpose. Your dreams need to be more than just thinking. You can't just simply do a vision board. You just can't simply write it down. There needs to be devotion, and that devotion is action. That devotion is also divine purpose. Not everyone's here to be a rock star. Not everyone is here to be an artist. Not everyone here is to be a healer, right? We all have our own divine purpose. So whatever lights you up, do it. Even if you don't do it full time, like even if it's not your primary moneymaker, still do it because it's nourishing who you are. Tapping into your purpose, making a commitment to be in action around whatever dream you have, even if it's your dream to rest every Sunday and do nothing for nobody else. If that is your dream, put it into action, make it happen. Because what happens is when you are following your passions with conviction and purpose, you are naturally regulating your nervous system because you are grounding in a state of divine alignment, for you are in alignment with yourself. And with that, your action towards your purpose that is filled with passion enables you to manifest the things you desire. They're not going to happen alone. Again, you just can't do wishful thinking and vision boarding. You have to really process, does this sit in alignment with who I am? Am I following my purpose? Is it in line with my purpose? Am I passionate about it? And if you're getting all those yes moments, you're feeling good in your body, even as you talk about it and read it, even if there's a tingle of fear, you're still like, oh, yeah, no, 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 this is all me. Go for it. I have seen so many people pause and re examine their lives and go, yeah, I may be a doctor, but I also love jewelry. And then next thing you know, they're like, well, I'm going to go take a jewelry class, a jewelry making class. And then they're like, boom, that's like one of their hobbies. And they're like, oh, yeah, I still see my patients, but you know what? I commit to doing my jewelry every week. And that keeps me calm, that keeps me steady, and helps me actually fulfill my commitments and my support that I provide to my patients because I'm showing up as myself, my full authentic self, not just in one aspect of my life, in every aspect of my life. So I want you to think about, what are you most passionate about? What have you been hiding and holding back on? And how can you give that little passionate area of your life a little bit more attention this month and see how it feels? Okay, we are almost done. We're almost there. Sutra 7. Be divine without apologizing. Be divine without apologizing. I love this one. It's the last one. It's the sweetest one. Mm. You were never, ever meant to play small. And this particular sutra is all about stepping into your most authentic, divine, passionate, beautiful, smart, authentic, highest self. When you do that, you are making this beautiful declaration to the earth, to God, and saying, yes, I'm showing up fully and completely as myself. And I am open to what? Receive. When you honor your worth, when you love yourself, when you embrace all the different aspects of who you are, all the beautiful gifts, when you move with grace and ease, with power and strength, and you naturally align and do all the healing work along the way, you're just simply telling the divine, telling the universe, telling God, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this life. Even if it's chaotic on the external world, that's not going to keep me from being me. And here's what I want you to think about on this one. How can you live more fully in your divinity this week and do it unapologetically? How can you live more fully in your divinity this week and do it unapologetically? Whew. Take a deep breath with me, guys. Exhale, empty out. This is another long episode of Spiritually Fly. I love it because obviously I have a lot to talk about because it's been forever, right? Months and months since I've recorded an episode. And so now that we're back on this train, this is our new season, 2 episodes under season 2. Here's the thing I want you to remember as I continue to do these foundation episodes, and I will be bringing you a foundation episode every month, is that these sutras are alive. They are living, breathing life principles. And as I share in my book, as I share these foundation sutras, pulling them apart one at a time or talking about different aspects about them as I bring you this podcast, I want you to know that these come from a place of love and practice. It's not some random method that looks good for the gram. It's not some method that was just crafted out of nonsense. It's that this is a lifestyle, a spiritual method that has supported me in my life and that has supported so many others. And I encourage you to weave these principles into your life. I encourage you to lead with love, to stand in your truth, to face your demons with compassion and bravery, to reveal your heart, to trust yourself, trust your intuition, and follow your passions as you live unapologetically. Now, if you are part of my membership, know that there are 7 workshops inside of the platform related to these sutras. And you can tap into any one of them at any moment in time. Just kind of go, oh, I need to like work on my heart. I'm like, I need to lead with more love. Okay, I'm going to go do that one. And then sometimes you do them again and again. I mean, I don't know how many times I have done the Lead with Love workshop. My God. Because it's a struggle out here for a single lady over 50. So that's a whole nother podcast. But sometimes I'll double up on workshops and go back and forth depending on what I need. But we'll talk about that as we move through the next several months and the next year. But I want you to know that these practices are here for you. And I encourage you to tap into them at any moment in time. Use the practices inside the book. Use the practices that are inside of the app. Allow yourself to feel the connection to yourself, to peel back those layers, to release what is no longer serving your highest good, and allow yourself to show up more vibrantly, more powerfully, and more divinely in this world. Spiritually Fly method and the associated sutras, even if you just read them every single day, that's going to have an impact on your life. Seriously, if you do not do a single practice, you just take these sutras and read them over and over and over again, you will experience a shift in your life, a beautiful, magnificent shift in your life. Something's going to change. So again, I encourage you to dive a little bit deeper. I'm going to leave some links below, and know that the Spiritually Fly Sutras, it's not about perfection. It's about connecting again and again to these principles, letting them support you in regulating your nervous system, aiding you in rooting into your truth, and allowing you spaciousness to align and manifest the life that you desire. So thank you again for joining me for another episode. Stay soft, stay grounded, and always stay spiritually fly. Ciao.